My name is Michael Thomas, and I am your superintendent. Does anybody understand and know what a superintendent does? Yes, sir. What's your name?
I'm Levi.
Levi. Nice to meet you, Levi.
The superintendent is basically, you're one of the people who runs District 11.
Yeah.
To help it function.
Yes, yes. So I think Levi said it pretty well. I'm one of the people that works at the top of the organization, if you will, that kind of helps the whole district run together. And I think a third grader said it best when I was asking her. I said, do you know what a superintendent does? And she goes, aren't you like a super principal? And I said, I like that. That's a good description. So yes, I'm a super principal. So today, I was invited to come out and speak to you all about a variety of different topics that you are learning about. Can anybody tell me what you're learning about and in what classes? And say your name in the teal blue hair.
My name is Sean.
Sean, nice to meet you.
And we're learning about how the connection in the past can make us better people.
How connections in the past can make you better people, okay? Anybody want to add to that? What are you learning about, and why are you having somebody come out and speak with you today? Yes, in the glasses. Your name, sweetheart?
My name is Lucy.
Lucy, nice to meet you.
So I'm learning about how this group called Greenpeace, they help habitat loss, and I'm having some trouble finding stuff, so
Okay.
some of us are having trouble finding stuff, so that's why I'm having guests.
Okay. And you're looking for things such as Greenpeace, and you're looking at ways to make connections to your past, and you're having people come out and speak. But in general, what is this for? Why are you doing this? Yes, your name?
Basically learning about, my name is Ivy. And
Ivy, nice to meet you.
Learning about history and how it can make us better citizens now.
There we go. I was trying to kind of just get it down to one little thing. I think Ivy, kind of like Levi summarized my job. Ivy said, we're trying to learn about history and how that can make us better today, right? There's a saying that says history has a way of repeating itself, all right? So everything from music to dance to hair. We never wore cat ears, but cat ears was a big thing for a while, right? But again, you could be making history, because 10 years from now, when that kind of fad goes away, guess what? Someone's going to see a picture. What's your name?
Taylor.
Somebody's going to see a picture of Taylor somewhere, and they're like, those are cool cat ears, right? And then 10, 20 years from now, they're going to bring cat ears back, right? Just like bell bottoms, just like skinny jeans, and you kind of pinch them and you roll them and all that kind of stuff. I did all that, right? So knowing your history is really, really, really important, because guess what? Your history is what brought you here today. Think about that. Your history, things that happened a long time ago, actually brought you here today. If it weren't for history, many of us in this room wouldn't even be here. And there are so many important things that have happened in our history, right? And so I'll tell you just a little bit about, I was invited to talk a little bit about my history and kind of what brings me here. And maybe as, your name again, sir? Sean, and how Sean said, we might make some connections, okay? And that's exactly how we learn. And staff, how much time do I have? What time do we leave?
You can take as long as you need. I mean, we were thinking an hour. So
Okay, so 2 o'clock is thereabout, and then questions? Okay, so, all right. So I'll tell you this. If you were to tell me at your age, because you guys are 5th grade, right? Okay, so roughly age ranges from what, 12-ish or so? 11. Okay. 10, 11? Okay. I inflated you maybe to 6th graders. But if you were to tell me at your age, and 11 years old for me was a very, very important year for me, and I'll tell you why. But if you were to tell me that I would be a superintendent of schools one day, I would have never believed you. Never, right? Because what was happening in my life back then probably wasn't preparing me to become a superintendent. When I was 11 years old, the reason why that's an important date for me is that was my golden birthday. Anybody know golden birthdays?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was my golden birthday. And I know you all have probably done silver and platinum and added all these other, exotic medals, but for me it was just golden birthday. That's what you celebrated. And your golden birthday, for those of you who were like, Mr. Thomas, what does that mean, right? It is, I was turning 11 on August 11th. So the age of your birthday is your golden birthday. Okay? So figure out when your golden birthday is. Maybe it's already passed, maybe it's coming. But mine was when I turned 11. And the golden birthday is something you're supposed to be looking forward to, and it's like this really big event, at least for me it was. And it turned out to be a pretty somber, kind of okay day. And when I was 11 years old, I really wanted a lot. I didn't have a lot growing up. And I really, really wanted a lot because I thought it would be, but I didn't get it, right? I didn't get what I thought I might get. And I remember being very sad that day. And that was kind of the story of a lot of my birthdays. And I literally can remember all the way back to my 7-year-old birthday when I first started recognizing that birthdays weren't going to be something that were going to be fun for me, right? And they never really had a good story for me for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they were always challenging for me. But I was 11 years old, and I didn't get what I thought I was going to get for my birthday, and life for me I just thought was not going to be that good. And I didn't have a lot of people in my life that were maybe looking at me and supporting me in ways that were going to be really helpful. So I was trying to figure out a lot of stuff by myself. And I'll tell you right now, as 10, 11-year-olds, that's not a good thing to try to figure out life by yourself, right? Because you don't know enough to figure enough out. But unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. So as I continued getting older, you all are probably aspiring to go to college, go off and get a good career. Maybe some of you are going to the military. There's a lot of things that you're preparing yourself for. I didn't really know what I was preparing for, right? I was a little lost. And when I went off to college, and I shared this story a little bit with some folks, I did graduate from high school, and I went off to college. Can anybody guess what my first quarter GPA was when I went off to college? And that's kind of like, what kind of grades did I get? Yes. All A's. Who believes I got all A's? Oh, good. I wish I had you all back in those days. When I went off to college, I am not proud to say that I failed every single class that I took. Failed every class. So my GPA was 0.0. Okay? A lot of shock in the room. Yeah. And I had to figure out what's going on, right? I clearly did not do what I was supposed to do. Would you all agree? I mean, some of you said I got B's. Some of you probably thought I got C's, but I never would have expected that I would get 0.0. Failed everything. And I did college for about a year and a half. And I was at a point where the college was inviting me to no longer be a student at that campus because I wasn't doing well. Okay? So you kind of look at grades from 0 to like a 4.0. I was asked to leave with a 1.3. So I was barely passing. Barely passing. Why do you think I was barely passing?
Because your grades
because of my grades.
Maybe you weren't working as hard as you should have.
I wasn't working as hard as I should have been.
Because when you were younger, you had to figure out things by yourself.
Wow. Do you all hear the connection? What is your name?
Veda.
Veda just made a connection to my history. Right? So I wasn't doing what I should have been doing at 10 or 11 years old to be ready to do what I was supposed to be doing at like 18, 19 years old. And that's not a lot of time in between, is it? Right? 6, 7 years in between. Time goes by real fast. So I wasn't ready. And so the university recognized it. I also knew it. And so I had to do the most embarrassing thing at 19 or so years of age and move back home with my parents. Trust me, you'll know what that feels like when you move away from your parents. When you move out and you go off to college, you want to be your own person. Well, I couldn't do that. I wasn't prepared. And that was hard for me to accept the fact that I wasn't prepared. So, I had 2 options, I thought, in my life. When I looked back on my history, there were very few. Actually, in my age of all the cousins, nobody had gone to college. So I didn't even have a model, a role model, a historical model to follow that would say, this is what you probably want to do. My parents didn't go to college. My dad actually didn't really graduate from high school. He had to go to night school. My mom graduated and that was it. So they couldn't teach me how to do college. So when I moved back home, I thought I had 2 choices. I could continue doing the wrong thing, which clearly was showing wasn't going to do well for me, or I could do something different. So have you all ever thought about the fact that when something is going wrong in your life, guess who's always there?
Parents,
Ooh, wow. Parents, God, yeah. Say, who just said yourself? When something has always gone wrong in your life, who can you count on always being there? Yourself. When things are going well in your life, who is always there? Yourself, right? So I recognize the fact that here I was, hadn't made some good choices, and I kind of had 2 different pathways I could choose. And without having good history, who do I have to talk with to make a decision?
yourself.
Myself, right? Now, I did talk to a couple other people too, but I said, I know what the bad choices will get me, because that's how I've gotten here. I wonder what would happen if I made good choices. And guess what I did?
Make good choices.
Yep, that's kind of a no-brainer now, right? I decided to make good choices. And amazing things started to happen when I made good choices. Right? So think about history. Because after we're done talking today, what we just discussed actually will be technically history tomorrow, right? So it took me a while to make that connection that even in the moment, I'm actually making what? History. I'm making history. And if I have the power to make history, I actually can help other people when they're trying to figure stuff out too, right? That's the power every single one of you have. You have an amazing power to make history. And you can make wonderful history that people will benefit from, and you can make not so good history that people will not benefit from, right? And I'm encouraging all of you to be makers of phenomenal history, because I'm living proof that when you kind of pick up the pen and begin to write history for yourself, amazing things will happen for you. The first thing that happened to me is I met an adult in college who saw something in me that I couldn't see. He could see somebody who was buried real deep, but there was a young, talented, bright person inside this body. I had not met that person because a lot of historical narratives or stories about me or people that looked like me were pretty negative. I didn't have the support in high school like some of my friends to say, you're amazing, you're talented, here's what you need to do well in college, here's what you need to do well. I didn't have anybody doing that for me, right? I did have a lot of people, unfortunately, even the adults, telling me just the opposite. You're not going to do so well. I literally had a 6th grade teacher tell me, I'm not going to amount to anything in life. Okay? So those messages are powerful. And you kind of hold on to those as part of your history, too. So I found an adult that cared about me. That's my encouragement to you all. You have some amazing teachers back here and all throughout the school and probably out in your communities as well as at home that care a lot about you. And find them and attach yourselves to them. Because Mr. Willie Nesbitt helped me out. So he was the first positive adult that encouraged me to grab a pen and start writing my history. And I met another adult, and another, and another, and another. So you can kind of see how the story goes, right? I ended up going back to a community college, which is a 2-year college, to try to figure my life out again and actually become a good student. And not only did I do well academically, but I also found my voice. Does anybody know what I might be referring to when I say I found my voice? Maybe somebody in the back that I haven't heard from. Yes, sir. Your name?
I'm Declan, and that voice is just kind of like you're calling what you want to be deep down.
Wow. So Declan should actually be sitting in this stool having this conversation. Absolutely. So the voice is that deep down calling that's inside you that you only can hear, that's telling you this is the best thing for you. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as your conscience, right? You kind of know, right? That's that voice I'm talking about. They actually help me discover my voice. And when you discover your voice, your calling, your passion, no one can stop you. No one can ever take that away from you. And so I got very active, and I wanted to bring my voice out. Literally wanted to bring my voice out. And so I became a student leader on campus. Very connected with a lot of things, advocating for the rights of students on campus. That's where I really started exercising my voice or putting my voice to work. And then I left that 2-year college, and I went to a 4-year university, small Catholic university called St. Thomas. And I did my undergraduate degree there, finished my degree there. And then I went to a very big, big university. Many of you, if you're sports fans, know the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know sports, so people tend to like the Gophers. But I went there, big university, did my master's there. Okay? And then I went back to St. Thomas, where I'm currently at right now, and I'm finishing my doctorate. And actually on the 28th of this month, I'm flying back home to defend my dissertation so I can become officially Dr. Thomas, right? But what it means is that I've done a lot of research and wrote a lot of pages about a topic that I really care deeply about to hopefully bring back into education to help, folks in education. That's what I did in my doctorate program. And I'm your superintendent. And there's been a lot of work that I've done to become a superintendent. And I'm going to tell you right now, being a superintendent is probably the best job that I could ever dream to have. And I wouldn't be here today if I didn't understand and make connections between what my past was, my history, whether it's my family history or my community history or my cultural history or my religious history, all those things that make me me, I had to find those things to really become my best. And I'm encouraging each and every one of you to really understand and make that connection to something or someone in your past that you believe is going to help you be your best. And think about what that is about. What happened, or what did that person say or do that really made that person special or made that event special for you, right? And focus there and use that as a building block for everything else as you write your new history, okay? So that's a little bit of what I wanted to share with you all to make those connections, and that when you do, great things can happen for you in your life. So as your superintendent, or the person that kind of works with all the schools, I guess I'm going to open up for any kind of conversation, questions that you might have, or even some of the project in the work that you're doing in school that you would like to share with me, not only about this conversation, but maybe others, because as your superintendent, I'm also responsible for making sure that you get everything that you need and staff get everything they need so that they can be their best as well. So right now, I guess I'll open it up for questions or a conversation about a variety of different things happening in your school or your life or my life or my past. Yes, sir.
What elementary school did you went to?
What elementary school did I go to?
Yes.
I went to 2 different elementary schools. The first elementary school I went to was Webster Elementary, and it was a performing arts magnet school. And if you all know the story of the Wizard of Oz, right? I got to perform as the lion when I was in kindergarten. I love that. I still remember that. And Miss Piazza was my kindergarten teacher. And Miss Piazza is the one who really inspired me, my love for reading. And then I went to Oakdale Elementary School. We moved from the inner city to kind of 10, 15 minutes out of the inner city so that we could have a better life experience. Yes, sir. What did I get my degrees in? My undergraduate degree is in social work. My master's degree is in social work. And my doctorate is in educational leadership. Yes, sir.
What inspired you to become the superintendent?
What inspired me to become the superintendent? I don't know if you all will ever believe me when I say this, but it was a 10-year-old boy named Reggie. So remember I told you all that I had pretty much not done well in life and making really poor choices? Well, I needed money, right? And I took a job at the YMCA, and I worked in an after-school program. And I met this young man, his name was Reggie, and he wanted to play foosball every day. You guys know what foosball is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's making a comeback, too. That's also a historical game. What's foosball? I'm going to let your classmates tell you what foosball is, but it's a pretty cool table, kind of like table tennis game, and you have all these different kind of soccer people, whatever. Soccer, yeah. Table soccer. Thank you. I was saying table tennis. That's ping pong. But it tells you how much I know about foosball, right? But I hated playing foosball because Reggie had like 10 arms, and he can have a hand on every one of these handles, and he like won every single time. But one day, Reggie said, "Man, I wish I had a dad like you." And that was it. That was my calling. This little 10-year-old boy was using me as a father figure, and I was using him as a paycheck. So I had to ask myself, what's wrong with this picture? I'm using him for something that's far less value than what he needs from me. And that was my wake-up call, and literally changed my major, and I focused on social work because I wanted to work with Reggie. I also wanted to work with Reggie's family, and I wanted to work with the community that supported Reggie's family. And the social work degree looks kind of at all of those different areas of individuals and people and community. So that's what inspired me to be a superintendent, because I said I want to work with as many Reggies as possible and Reginas, and that's why I'm here, to work with students and support students. Yes, sir?
What pair of shoes did you wear when you were a kid?
What pair of shoes did I wear?
No, what kind?
Well, I'm going to tie it back to what we're talking about. So historically, what's making a comeback?
Jordan shoes.
Jordans are making a comeback. Converse are making. So I called Converse Chuck Taylors, right? So you guys need to understand that Converse are not even Converse. They're really Chuck Taylors. And figure out why they call them Chuck Taylors, all right? But yes, I used to wear black and red Chuck Taylors. That was my favorite shoe. Black and red were my colors growing up. Oh, he is. Yeah, good observation. Yes.
How many years did it take you to become a superintendent?
How many years did it take me to be a super? That's a really good question. So I've been working in education for over 20 years. So all of those experiences, work experiences, have prepared me to become a superintendent. I also had to do licensures and pass various tests and that kind of a thing. So it's taken me my entire career to really find my true calling and my true passion. And the superintendency, I think, kind of is the spot where everything I've ever done comes together in one job to really work with everybody that you've kind of worked in their shoes, so to speak. So 20-some years. Yes, sir, and then I'll come back to you.
So, like, what was the best moment in elementary?
What was the best moments in elementary? The best moment in elementary for me was kindergarten, because Miss Piazza was a life changer for me. I still remember Miss Piazza and my first grade teacher, Miss Henry. And the reason they were so inspiring to me is, one, Miss Piazza is the person who really helped me learn the love of reading. And she used to have this old-fashioned, they called them clawfoot bathtubs. So Google that, clawfoot bathtubs in her classroom, and it was lined with pillows. And that was a reading zone. And I couldn't think of anything better than to read in the bathtub, right? So that was a really good strategy that she had to inspire kids to want to read, because you could only be in the bathtub if you could demonstrate how you could read, right? And then my first grade teacher, Miss Henry, she was the first and only teacher of color I ever had until I got to college. And she was a Latina woman, and it really mattered to me because when we moved from the inner city of St. Paul to a suburban area of the Twin Cities, there was really nobody that looked like me, that had experiences like me, and I really felt isolated and I felt alone. Miss Henry was somebody that had, at least at that time, had brown skin. I could connect with her. We talked about her community and Spanish-speaking communities and the black communities. We had something in common. And then I never saw another teacher or educator of color until I got into college. And so that's why she stands out so much to me. And she was very inspiring to me to see somebody who looked like me that could actually be an educator, and really inspired me to love teachers. Yeah. Yes? Did I have any jobs before I worked at the YMCA? The very first job I had, you all are going to laugh, I worked at Kmart. Does that even exist anymore? So that's actually now part of your history, right? But yeah, Kmart is where I worked. That was my very first job. They just closed the last one. So when I worked there, we used to call it Came-Apart, because we always thought it was kind of a junk store, but I shouldn't say that because I'm being filmed. Kmart was the best place. No, yeah, that was my first job. And I had a lot of my jobs after Kmart were always centered around youth. So the Y was actually my next job. And then everything I've done since the Y always ties back to youth. And that's been my calling. I've committed my life to Reggie. Actually, my dissertation, you have what's called a dedication page. My dedication page is telling my story with Reggie, because I have no idea where he's at right now because we lost contact. So this is my dedication to him of all this life's work. Yes?
What was your favorite, specialist teacher?
So I think that's a very important question. Did you all hear that question?
Yes.
I'm going to repeat it. What was your favorite specials teacher? Okay, or whatever it might be called. So for me, you probably couldn't guess after my 0.0, but I wasn't the best student in school, right? But the one thing that kept me coming back to school was music. So my music teacher, and then ultimately my band teacher, Mr. Boldelson, that was why I wanted to come to school. I was a drummer. Have any of you seen that movie Drumline?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I don't know when it's rated, so don't go watching it until you talk with your parents and make sure the rating's okay. But I was that student in Drumline. So my uncle was a drummer. Actually, everybody in my family was a musician. My dad actually played with Prince's dad. You guys know who Prince is?
Yep.
Okay. So my dad used to play with Prince's dad in the time and all those folks, right? So he grew up as a band person, and he dreamed that he would become a famous musician. My grandmother had different thoughts. But I grew up in a very musical family and around a lot of famous musicians that still exist today. And I was a drummer, and my uncle was in a country western band. And so I would go on tour with the Red Willow Band, old country western band based in South Dakota, Garrettson, South Dakota. And I would go there and just be on the road, and I'd start learning how to play. And he taught me how to play drums, and that was my love. So music was my love, and I was taught without music. So if you remember the movie Drumline, remember, he was a great drum player, but what couldn't he do? He couldn't read music. I could not read drum charts, right? I would listen to it and play the tapes and then memorize it and then play it. I could read some music. Now, I wasn't completely illiterate when it came to music, but I couldn't read drum charts. And so ultimately, I was kind of found out, similarly to that student in the movie, and I quit when I went off to college because they wouldn't let me play because I couldn't read music. So I wish I would have never quit. But music was my inspiration. And you all probably have a similar hook. Something pulls you to school. Could be the academics, could be your specialist teacher. So very important to find that caring person that kind of pulls you in. Yes, sir?
Were you athletic?
Was I athletic? Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
Suppose I should because I'm being taped, right? So everybody who looks at me asks the same question. Can you all maybe guess what that question is? Yeah. Just take a guess. What do you think? Absolutely. Everybody always asks me, did you play basketball? Did you play basketball? I have a friend who's 6'11", and he's about 220, 230, so he's a big guy. And he used to play basketball professionally, and I have another friend who's a ex-Miami Dolphin as well. So these are some big guys. And so when we would travel together, they're also in education, so we would travel together, and they're monsters, right? So they all thought, and they were ex-athletes, so everybody used to think I was an ex-athlete. And I'll tell you, never played sports. Never played sports. So I played, like, street basketball and that kind of a thing, but I never played organized sports. I wish, again, when I think back on history, if I could rewrite something, that's one aspect I wish I would have done, because I actually was a pretty good basketball player, and believe it or not, I used to be able to slam dunk, right? Believe it or not, I used to be able to slam dunk. So I had some skills, but if I could have had somebody coach me on those skills, I probably would have been a mean person on the court. So, do you play?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, several of you do? All right. Yes, sir?
Have you ever been camping?
Have I ever been camping? So, I love camping. I love camping. Yes, I've been camping a lot. As a matter of fact, can I tell you something? The reason why I'm here in Colorado Springs is because 7 years ago, our family came down here for a vacation. Actually, it was for my mother-in-law. She was retiring as a teacher, and she wanted to go whitewater rafting. Like getting in a raft and going down the river, and there's rapids, and you got to kind of go around different obstacles and things like that. It's pretty intense. Well, we're camping, is it Canyon City, I think, right? Canyon City, like south of Pueblo or something like that. I'm trying to remember all this stuff. But we were camping there, and I absolutely fell in love with Colorado Springs and like this area and the foothills and the mountains. And my wife and I said, we could live here one day. And guess what? That one day is today. Here I am living in Colorado Springs, and I was here camping 7 years ago. So yes, I absolutely love camping.
When did you move here?
I moved here July 1st. Yes, and then I'll come to you.
Is there any jobs that you wanted to have that you didn't get to?
Wow. You know what? These are some amazing students. You all are asking. So I hope you're hearing these questions, everybody, and the responses, because you all should be making some significant connections in your life about kind of what you think you might want to do and maybe what happens. So yes, I wanted to become a veterinarian. I thought I was going to be a vet. I love animals. And again, Reggie changed a lot for me, but to this day, I still found a way to fuel my passion and love for animals vis-a-vis my daughter. So my oldest is a senior in high school, and guess what she wants to be when she grows up? A vet. And she's been wanting to be a vet since she was 5 years old. So we've been supporting her a lot. So we've had every animal you can think of in our house, including right now we have 3 rescued kittens in our house. And I've had mice, I've had gerbils, I have African cichlids, I have 2 dogs. I've not had a monkey. Domestic vets, no dinos, right here. I answered your question about wanting to have a dinosaur. Was that what you were going to ask? I'm kidding. What was going to be your question?
Like, what did you want to be before?
Yeah. So a veterinarian, and the other one, just to add to that, I wanted to be a musician. Now, I just shared with somebody the other day, actually one of our board members on Friday, and again, if you look at me now, you're like, Mr. Thomas, nah. So I was a hip-hop kid growing up, right? So I was what they used to call b-boys, right? You guys know what b-boys are? A couple of you might, maybe, right? Google that. There's some history on b-boys. But I was a b-boy, so I was a break dancer. And back, any moves right now? I don't think you have any idea how old I am or the surgeries I've had. But no, I can't break dance anymore. But so I was the kid that used to be able to do the turtle like nobody's business, okay? Just look it up. That was my thing. And nope, that's back spinning and shoulder rolls and windmills and all that. No, I could do some of that. My thing was doing the turtle, okay? So check that out. But I was a b-boy. I used to break dance all the time. And I was this young hip-hop kid who was in this rap group called the 2+2 Crew. And we would do battles all over the Twin Cities. I was on the radio. We made CDs. I shot a video. I could actually show you guys a video we shot for the Jostens Ring Company. Okay? It still exists on VHS tape. I have it. So I was going to be a rapper. I was going to be like the next Jay-Z, or, you know, that was going to be me. My parents thought otherwise. My parents, I don't know all the folks. I have to ask my kids nowadays. Yes, way in the back.
What was your favorite sport?
What was my favorite sport? So here's the thing. I really didn't get into sports until I met my wife. So I never really got into sports. And my brother-in-law was a semi-pro hockey player. And so I would go watch him play hockey and just kind of got hooked into watching sports. And now I watch sports. So now I love watching sports. I don't know all the stats and all the stuff about them, but I love watching a good game. But I will say the Vikings yesterday were on point. Yeah, who likes the Vikings? They smashed the 49ers. Okay, I probably have time for about 3 more questions. Yes, in the back, in the gray, in the black. Okay, shh.
I wanted to say that my sister's cat is named Thomas.
Your sister's cat's name is Thomas? It's a good name for a cat. Actually, because not only is it my last name, but it's also my favorite cartoon, Tom and Jerry. So, Thomas the cat. Ah, yes. Now, don't tell anybody I watched Tom and Jerry. Yes. Yeah, I just got exposed. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So the question is, I know that you really didn't have a lot of teachers that supported you, but did you have friends? Let me tell you a little bit about friends. Friends are very, very important. Okay? And who your friends are is even more important, right? So a friend is somebody that you have things in common with that actually can add value to who you are. That's my definition of a friend, right? And I share that with you all because I know in the age of, a lot of the technology and kind of social, apps and things that are out there, people are like friending people on every different kind of app, and you have no idea who they are really. So my advice to you all, as your superintendent, somebody who cares deeply about you being successful in life, and as your students here, make sure you find friends. Make sure those friends add value to you, and make sure those are truly people you know. Okay? These aren't Snap buddies. These aren't Twitter buddies. These aren't Facebook friends. These are folks that you know and your families know that you have the same values, the same interests, again, that help you become better. I didn't have a lot of that growing up. Again, growing up where I was at, I was very different compared to a lot of people that were around me. And because I was very different, it was hard for me to make those connections. But I did have a couple of friends that I would say are true friends. And I would say those are two of them. And those are the only two from elementary school to this day that I actually still keep in contact with. Nobody else I would consider a friend. There were people I knew, but they weren't friends. Yes, in the back corner.
Have you ever had to do sports?
Have I ever had to do sports? I think there's a question beneath that question, but I will say this. Yes, my dad was a baseball coach, and he forced me to play baseball for 2 years. Yeah, it was tough. Okay, last question back here in the... Poncho, thank you. I was trying to remember the name of those. Poncho.
Did you have snakes?
Did I have snakes? Actually, I did not have any snakes that were domesticated. Where I live on a nature reserve, and so I have gardener snakes or garter snakes all over the place. So my vegetable garden back home in Minnesota, where I'm from, I have holes all over my vegetable garden where the snakes make their homes. And then I get all these baby snakes that hatch in the spring all the time. And so my kids are like, oh, it's like 30 snakes all kind of intertwined down there. Yeah, it's kind of cool looking, but no, I don't ever have any domesticated. So, okay, this is the last question. This will be the last question. What was my favorite thing in hip-hop? Wow. So my favorite thing in hip-hop or music, even today, are beats. So that was my, no, I'm not talking beatbox, like the actual beats and rhythms. So that's why I became a drummer. And then I also bought a lot of equipment. So I had drum machines, I had sequencers, I had synthesizers. And so I was the person making the music and the beats for everybody to kind of put their tracks over. So that was something that I really loved about hip-hop. And even to this day, we call it drummer syndrome. Everything is a rhythm. So when I walk or when I'm outside or when I'm driving, I kind of see and think and hear things in rhythm, in patterns. It's kind of weird, but that's just how my life has been. So beats for me. Listen, everybody, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to have a conversation with you, telling you a little bit about my story, and hopefully you have found some inspirational messages in my story and the importance of understanding two things, okay? Two things I want you to walk away with. One, understand you're only sitting here today because of your history, okay? Something or someone has occurred in your history that allows you to be here today. Never forget that connection. And what's the other thing I want you to remember? You can probably take a guess. It's about history.
Yourself.
You yourself are making history. What you do today is history tomorrow. So how do you want people to kind of pull up your history and read about your history? Do you want it to be something positive or not so positive? Absolutely. My mom used to always say, whatever you do, pretend like it's going to end up on the front page of the newspaper Sunday morning, right? Because that's the history we want to see. Now, I had to learn a few things to make sure I could do that for my mom, but that's what I want you all to do as well. The history you're making today, make it be positive so that you're remembered for something great. Thank you all. Thank you, staff, for taking the time to bring such an amazing group of students together. I wish you well this year, and I'll turn it back over to your teachers. And I'll kind of hang on informally for you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all.